The other day I was talking to you about content and how one shouldn't be able to hide behind quote unquote SEO efforts without really showing what they're doing. And you came back and you said, Alex, I would love to do a Google Search Console teardown
That's right.
on any site for any client or prospective client that's paying for quote unquote SEO and content optimization, right?
Those are the most fun.
Fantastic. So I'm holding myself back from saying the things in which I usually want to say. You know what I want to say. SEO, industry full of absolute BS nonsense, ripping people off, charging for nothing, no value. Okay? I don't know how much stronger I could possibly say it. Can you explain to us what someone paying for SEO and content should be looking at as a marker for success or lack of success? Maybe we start with that.
All right. There are a series of KPIs, key metrics that are important. Depending on the site, depending on the type of business, would impact which metrics you want to be looking at. It's not necessarily a one size fits all. There are some general ones. Looking at impressions, for instance, is useless. It's a vanity metric. It has no real impact. Just because you have more impressions or your impressions went up does not mean anything. Say you're all of a sudden, say you're ranking for 50 more keywords and you're not looking at what those keywords are. That's a big problem.
So for example, you're ranking for more, but they're irrelevant keywords.
Correct.
Okay.
So naturally, your impressions would go up because you're ranking for more. But that's neither one of those aspects is necessarily helping your business.
It's not bringing you any revenue.
It's not bringing any revenue, but it's not even necessarily bringing you the right people.
It's also hurting because you're bringing the wrong people to the website.
It could certainly hurt the people, and it could certainly hurt your traffic and your metrics, but it could also have a negative implication to your ad spend if now you're spending money on Meta or Google to do retargeting.
And you're retargeting a bunch of random traffic that's not relevant to your that's not going to buy anything from you.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is the first place.
Makes great sense.
Then I think the next aspect is to look at where these people are coming from.
I was going to say, yeah, Mike, but I'm getting 1,000 clicks to this particular piece of content every month. That must mean that the SEO is working, right?
Sounds pretty good.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
So can you explain what you look for in 2 seconds in Search Console?
So for starters, we look to see where the traffic's coming from. For the majority of the sites, especially here in the United States, when the traffic from outside countries is probably not relevant or not necessarily needed. If you're a plumber here in Las Vegas, you do not need to be ranking for anything related to plumbing in Denmark.
Mhm.
And then it's also important to see what is actually being ranked. A lot of people who aren't paying attention are getting articles and content and posts that are not relevant to their core of their business. So those blog articles, they're bringing in traffic, they're bringing in clicks for irrelevant traffic.
The wrong traffic, the wrong clicks, waste of time, waste of energy.
Correct. So looking at the country, that's a good starting place. And then looking at what's actually ranking, what keywords are ranking. And then you have the whole other aspect of looking at the type. Is it a branded keyword? If it's the name of your company, that's great. But people are going to find you anyways because they're already searching for you. So for you to rank for the name of the company, now if you have a generic, if your name is Las Vegas Plumber, if that's the name of your company, we're going to set that aside. But in general, for most companies that have names that are not the keywords, ranking for the branded terms are going to be of no value.
And it should also probably be very easy to rank for your own name compared to non-branded.
Sure, that's going to happen anyways.
It's going to happen anyway. Yeah, I
That's
agree
right.
with you. Yeah, something that comes to my mind is, look, again, I appreciate Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner wants to do something, wants to get some value, wants to see their organic rankings go up. They're hiring some company to create content, allowing that company to be your driver of the decisions of what the content should be, I assume, right? Or maybe they're a part of the discussions, but the company's driving it. They're producing the content. They're producing reporting that maybe looks pretty, right?
Sure.
What does one do? What does one do? I got to get into this. I have to say this. I can't help myself. You always you always tell me to calm down with this, but I'm just gonna do it. I have a great client and friend, has multiple locations of his business, lost tens of thousands of dollars with quote unquote SEO in the past. I know it as a fact. Hired another company to do SEO the other day. Tells me, "Hey Alex, what do you think?" What do I think? I think that if an SEO company selling SEO should probably rank for something for themselves. I don't want to hear stories about we're not focused on our own site. We're too busy with client deliverables. We changed our domain name. We did this. We did that. Like, please, I can't accept this. I can't hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. It's total nonsense. I'm going to say the following. If you're a surgeon, have you performed any surgeries before? If you have a restaurant, well, do you have a chef that has cooked here before? If you're a web designer, do you have a portfolio? You ever made a website before? Enough already.
Sure. You should be able to show something.
Something. Don't tell me, oh, we're busy with client deliverables. We just haven't focused on our own. I mean,
I think for clients, they need to understand what they're getting. Now, the challenge with SEO is that while there are tools that will help, that's all that they do. They don't actually do the work. It's a very manual, very tedious process. So at the end of the day, you're paying for time. More than anything else, you're paying for the time of the people doing the actual work.
if someone told you that they had a AI tool that was going to automatically do it and they were going to bill you $1,000 a month and somehow your rankings were going to increase, what would you say to that? I want to get you on the phone with these people and I want to.
I would be very interested in the name of the tool, but it's not.
No, it's something they develop.
I know. It doesn't exist.
You know what doesn't make sense to me, Mike? Professionals charge hourly rates. Is that a fair statement? There's an hourly rate associated with work.
Sure.
You get stuff done at your house, you're going to pay the guy $150 an hour to come out and do something. You go here, you pay $400 for this an hour, for that, whatever the range is. If you pay $1,000 a month for a service from a professional company, is it a fair statement to say that they're doing approximately 6 to 10 hours of work? Approximately?
It depends on the company. Maybe. I mean, good SEO work is anywhere from 100 to 250 an hour.
And how many hours is needed in order to move the needle for somebody?
It's a manual process.
Is it 2 hours a month?
No.
Is it 20, 30, 40 hours a month maybe of work? It could be.
It could be. And for most companies, probably.
So is it a fair statement to say, be aware of any SEO offering that is in those low number ranges per month?
For 500, 1,000.
What are you going to get for that?
You're not.
What are you going to get? People might say, oh, it's not a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. If you multiply that 1,000 times 12, you spend 12 grand over that year for what? Now, multiply 2K times 12, it's $24,000 a year. What have you gotten?
A lot of it's being outsourced. A lot of it's being automated completely. And you're just not getting the eyes on it or being able to do the right work.
Why are discerning clients that would not spend money frivolously in other things be so keen to quickly spend money on something that doesn't have a clear deliverable associated with it? Can you explain it to me?
I think in many ways, SEO has been a black box for so many years. It's something that everyone is familiar. The majority of people are familiar with the term SEO.
Yeah.
And while they don't know exactly what it is, they know it's needed. And that in general is a accurate statement. It is needed to some extent. The level of engagement for what needs to happen for each business, that will vary. But whether it's having your website optimized properly, for the majority of people, that is good enough.
70% of the way, maybe?
70%. There's other areas to focus on the business and the marketing before you dive into SEO. People like the idea of SEO. And again, it was sort of the original marketing strategy before you had all the ad platforms, and it remained dominant because that's what used to drive traffic when people didn't know what they were looking for or they were doing research. The organic rankings is what led people to
I get it.
become new customers.
Yeah.
The ads come in, they take over the platforms. SEO sort of took a backseat, but it's always still been there. It's always been there to drive revenue for people to find the website or the service, and that part's been good. But people don't really know exactly what they're getting.
Can we say, is the blanket statement, if you don't have clarity of exactly what you are getting and you're happy with that outcome, you shouldn't be paying for. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. Now, you get a lot of people who come in who try to make guarantees. There are no guarantees with SEO. You can't guarantee that Google's going to rank you in X position.
Or frankly, look, you said something years ago, I'll never forget. What happens when you do achieve that little ranking that you so desperately want? Then what? What happens if nobody comes to the site? What happens if it doesn't have a meaningful
Ranking number one for X term doesn't mean anything if you don't have a proper way to convert. And I think for the majority of businesses, for the amount that you need to invest into SEO, the offset is not worth it.
Yeah. Look, you can turn on ads and spend the money on ads and have more of a guaranteed result.
You could also focus on your website and make sure it's properly optimized. You have the right landing pages, the right content on the pages, all of which play into your SEO, your search engine optimization strategy. But starting at the top, when companies or businesses don't have priority, when they don't have their priority, which is, not multiple priorities. If you don't have a single goal you're working towards, asking someone to start optimizing your website for 5 different terms, you're just not going to be able to have the time or the ability to have that delivered properly for the majority of companies.
So we said Search Console teardown, which I love. What are you saying? Are you saying you'll log into Search Console for any person paying quote unquote SEO rates and you can tear it apart in 15 minutes? You give them an overview of what's the reality of the situation.
I would love to have the opportunity for someone who's working with an SEO agency to give me the chance to take a look at their Search Console, at their analytics, to see what I can find. Now, maybe they'll get lucky and I'll say, look, this site's in great shape.
Yeah.
More often than not, every time, you're going to see things that probably would be of surprise to someone who's paying for SEO.
Significant money.
Significant.
I don't care if someone says, again, oh, it's only 500. Oh, it's only 1,000. No. You multiply that over months and years. That is a very significant sum. Look, I'm smiling here only because I don't want to cry. And I've been hearing this same story for so many years. I keep saying I'm jaded. I can't hear it anymore. And there's a great saying. It's, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone.
All right.
So I'd rather laugh about it and at least talk openly about what I think is problematic in a very serious way in this industry we find ourselves in than to not talk about it.
For anyone paying less than $4,000 a month, I would love the opportunity to show them where that money could be better spent.
And what about people paying more than 4,000?
I wouldn't want to look. There's some very good people out there doing SEO.
100%. There's
very
professional
good
companies, no question about it.
Very good. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Yeah, but that 4K likely represents a small percentage of the overall marketing budget of that company. They're not putting every dollar they have into that 4K. That's not their entire marketing budget.
As you should.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
I often say, listen, SEO is important, right? But it's the last 20% that I'm going to think about in my whole ecosystem here. It's not the first 20%.
Look,
I need people to pick up I need the phone to ring and I need the form submissions to come through on a daily basis for us to sustain and grow. And I'm not sitting around waiting for somebody to call me from organic rankings in order to make that happen. I'm going to go spend money that is necessary in order to convert at a certain number that we can expect and have the increase in which we need.
Having your marketing budget diversified across multiple channels is very important.
Yeah.
That's why I'm running the ads. We have Google, we have Meta, we have our owned channels, which is our email and our SMS lists.
Mm-hmm.
We're still doing content. I mean, if you lose one channel,
The business isn't down the toilet in one day.
correct.
Yeah. Like you've said, look what happens with TikTok, et cetera, in one day, things can
Correct.
happen.
Now, Google, it is guaranteed. It's a pay-to-play place. So you are guaranteed for Google Ads to be able to show up at the first position.
Yeah. Well,
for
you
whatever
said it.
you want.
You've said it all along. It's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of how much will it cost us.
It will. It's a matter of how much will it cost us to be placed at that first position,
How
and
many
how
clicks do we
many
need?
clicks do you need, and what is the cost of acquisition.
Yeah.
Looking at sessions, not relevant. Looking at how much time someone spends on your site, better indicator. Looking at revenue per session, especially if you're certainly for e-com sites, that is a valuable metric. That's something you can optimize for. You can optimize for your SEO on increasing revenue per session by getting better content to bring a better qualified person to your site. For lead gen, B2B space, which is the majority of the sites out there, you can focus on key events. How many people are filling out forms? Where are they coming from? Increase in, better search queries. Now, you have Google AI overviews, which is going to take some of it, but there's certainly optimizations that can be made. Most of it's on site. When people start talking about link building and these other strategies, it's one cost on the next, and it just all jumbles up into that black box, and no one even knows at that point what's working.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the new content? Is it the paying for backlinks, or the networks, or the outreach, the affiliates? No one knows, and that's the problem.
So you're saying that you'd be happy to take a look at any person watching this that is spending money on SEO or otherwise and say what's working and what's not working, correct?
Correct. And I don't, again, not to, it's not to point fingers at the SEO companies.
It's just to
Some people, like I said, get very good results from the right professionals. Most do not, and that's the problem.
correct.
And they're insistent on staying with this one channel because they're looking at the wrong metrics, or worse, they're not looking at any metrics.
Or they don't know the metrics. They have no idea. I had somebody call me the other day. I'll go into this longer story another time, but it was a doctor's office. And I said, okay, you're spending this money, which already doesn't make sense. The numbers just don't add up. It doesn't make any sense how much you're spending for quote unquote digital marketing, but how much is a patient worth to you? I said, that's a really good question. I said, I know it is. How much is a patient worth? She said, I'm not sure. Okay, well, how do we know how much we could possibly spend in order to acquire this patient if you don't even know how much they're worth to you? Right?
Yeah.
Basic question. It's just, again, surprising that companies are spending significant dollars and not asking the right questions, not even knowing some baseline, like, what are we doing here?
Right.
What are we doing here?
We will do an episode specifically about customer acquisition, but
I'd love to.
looking at that doctor's office, depending on the number of services that they have and the type of services, those patients should likely be worth different amounts.
Mhm. If someone's coming in for the Ozempic, whatever shot versus someone coming in for basic yearly health screening is different things.
Correct.
Yeah, I see. Mike, always very, very fun with you. Thank you. Google Search Console teardown.
I would love to do it.
I can't wait to see a few of those. Maybe you should go tear down ours. Thank you.